few years ago, I attended a workshop with an amazing expert on inclusion and exclusion. A few months later, I got the exciting opportunity to work with this expert in his own organization. I was eager to learn from a master. I discovered while working in his organization that he was using some of the very same exclusion behaviors that he had taught us not to use. It left me wondering, if I present myself as an expert on including stakeholders in a conversation, since that is a big part of what we do in organization development, how will I know if I'm walking my own talk? I read existing studies on inclusion, and I spoke to 7 consultants about how they include the points of view of their clients and what kinds of things they struggle with in terms of being inclusive. Each one had a story about how they included or excluded a client. What I found out is that exclusion is normal. We all have biases and assumptions about how things are, and when we enter into any kind of relationship with another person, we often assume they see things the same way we do. This is true far less often than we like to think. This also makes exclusion difficult to recognize. We aren't generally aware that we are doing it because usually the idea we are failing to consider is completely outside our experience. I'm on my own planet, totally oblivious to yours. For example, one of my interviewees was an American who consulted abroad. He was so sure he knew how business was done that for a while he was unable to hear his client tell him that it needed to be done a different way in her culture. Exclusion is an act of separation. It can be as explicit as "I am not one of you" or "you are not one of us," or as simple as "my job doesn't include doing X, it's only about doing Y." Our underlying beliefs have us dismiss out of hand things that don't agree with them so quickly that we usually don't even notice that we've done it. Exclusion protects our identities. In all of our relationships, we are constantly evaluating whether something fits with our beliefs or not. The more strongly I identify with those beliefs, the harder a time I will have considering ideas outside them. I will exclude those ideas in order to remain secure in my beliefs. Another one of my interviewees was so wrapped up in the identity shift resulting from moving to a new city that she was completely oblivious to the personal struggle of a client she was coaching through her retirement, who was struggling with who she would be if she didn't have her job anymore. So how can we overcome exclusion? It's not only about simply not excluding. To overcome exclusion, we must actively include. Inclusion requires that we recognize our interrelatedness. One of my interviewees said, "If I can learn what you feel your needs are and what work you feel like you need to do, then I can bring my best self and help develop strategies and ways that we can partner to get that work done." It's about partnering. Partnering requires mutual inclusion, and mutual inclusion requires that both parties to the relationship have malleable identities. I must allow my beliefs to be changed by my interaction with you, and you must do the same with me. In order to allow my identity to be malleable, I must constantly seek to learn about myself, and I must constantly seek to learn about you. What do I see going on? What do you see going on? What does that combined information tell us about the situation? I assume we've all heard the saying that change comes from within. I think change comes from between. Change is something we do together. Another interviewee said, "My experience is that when two people are in that place of ownership and learning, something shifts." In closing, I will share what another interviewee said after telling me how she had helped turn disagreement into conflict rather than understanding. So much about consulting is based on the personality and the way that you are with people, and it's very challenging when someone doesn't like that. Not only do you want them to like you, it's not easy to be challenged in that way. It's much easier to support them challenging each other than challenging you. But it happens. There's really good reasons why people challenge the authority of the facilitator or the leader. And then what do you do with that? What is your belief about that?